So I've been asked quite a few times about how to get started in networking. Now, in this video, I'm going to review some of the sources, resources, and just information that you should know with regard to starting out in networking. There's going to be two separate paths I'm gonna address when it comes to networking. The first path is networking for those who do not want to become network engineers or people who just need to learn the basics of networking and they do not want to drill deep down into networking because networking is a rabbit hole. It's one of those vast fields that you can gain many different levels of expertise in. And that's a lot of people in IT right now. A lot of people in IT just want to know the basics of networking. A lot of people don't want to know anything about networking at all, and that's cool. The other path is for people who want to become network administrators, network engineers, and network security engineers, right? So I will be speaking, well, at least in that realm, I'll be speaking to the experience that I have up to being a network security engineer and some of the things that I've done, some of the things that I do to stay up to date on all of this network stuff, right? So, as you can see here, I have a Brave browser window opened with a few tabs, right? So when you're getting started in networking, assuming that you have happened upon my channel, I would highly suggest that you go to my playlists and check out some of the networking content that I've made. Because people ask me about resources with regard to networking, some of the videos that I've made, etc., etc. And I have 28 of them right here, right? So I have everything from Packet Tracer, I have everything from Packet Tracer, configuring DHCP, STP, HSRP, OSPF, all of those things. So just review that. I think my channel is a decent source for learning at least the basics of networking or figuring out if networking is even your thing, right? So my channel is decent, at least I think so. I always try to communicate in a way that's accessible and authentic, organic, so that people can sort of get the true, idea of what I'm about, IT, networking, etc., etc. Right? Now, that's my channel. I don't do courses and things of that nature. I'm more of a communicator and demonstrator. I like to kind of like demonstrate some of the things that I'm learning. I like to document a lot of the things that I'm learning and learn as I go along on my channel because it gives me practice with regard to having to explain certain concepts in my professional career, whether it's through staff meetings or tech committee meetings or to other staff members that I work with. So YouTube is a great way for me to build a portfolio, get some practice in, and work on my soft skills, if you will. And I highly recommend that if you are getting into any field in the IT industry or IT space, that you master communication, at least get better at communication, get better at translating technical skills or technical jargon into an accessible form for people who are less technical, right? So, first resource I'm going to tell you to look into if you are trying to get into networking or learn networking at the very basics, I would say go with Professor Messer. Nothing basic about his channel at all whatsoever. This guy has been a great resource for me and millions of people. You see, he has 1 million subscribers. Like and he has like 3K videos. He's one of the best, right? I started with him with A plus, and I didn't use Network Plus because my mentor told me to do CCNA if networking is what I want to get into. So that's the route I went, but I definitely used his A plus. So if you're looking to get into networking, he has I think Network Plus is what, up to 9 now, N10009. I would highly recommend that you visit this playlist right here and go through all of the networking content for Network Plus. How I view the Network Plus is I didn't take the exam. I didn't really study through Network Plus much, but I did look through the book. I think it's a more foundational certification, more foundational material. I don't think that the Network Plus goes as in depth with the fundamentals of networking like the CCNA does, which is not really a bad thing. I do think that if you are studying for the Network Plus, you are already on the right path to gaining some sort of understanding of networking. I mean, a good understanding of networking and network fundamentals. And if you don't really care about becoming a network engineer, a network admin, and all that stuff, you just need to know the basics of it. Network Plus is, in my opinion, good enough, right? Even though I'm always pushing that CCNA, right? So I think that is pretty much where you should get started if you are just trying to learn the fundamentals of networking. You don't want to go too crazy. And it's not to say that the exam is easier. I don't know. I've never taken the exam. But from what I've heard and just from my perspective and what my mentor told me, go for the CCNA, go to Cisco track. And I'm going to explain to you why I like Cisco from an academic standpoint when I get to my other points, right? So if you're just trying to learn networking and you want to move past that and then go into cybersecurity, I think Network Plus is good enough. So you take your Network Plus, you take your Security Plus, and see where that takes you. I didn't take that path. I'm in a whole different path. So that's what I can tell you so far, right? I would also highly recommend, whether you're going the network expertise route or just network fundamentals route. Maybe you're a software person, or you just need to know basic networking for whatever reason. Your boss told you to get a Network Plus, whatever reason. I think you should know subnetting to some extent. And this website right here, subnetting.net, is where I practice subnetting. Still to this day, I practice subnetting, and I worked through some examples. They got free subnetting tools, subnetting practice. They got a subnet game, what have you, different things you could sign up for. That's typically what I do when I need to practice subnetting, when I was learning subnetting, right? So again, if you just want a basic, and there's not really basic about the Network Plus, but if you want more of a basic and foundational approach to networking, and then you move on to the next thing, I would go with the Network Plus, CompTIA Network Plus, right? For those of you who want a career in networking, network security, something having to do with becoming a network engineer, network admin. Network Plus is also good for network administrators as well. But if you want to go that path of network admin, network engineer, network security engineer, whatever the case may be, that requires you to have more of a deep understanding of networking, I highly suggest that you go for your CCNA. Now, I used Jeremy's IT Lab to get into to get really into the weeds of networking. Jeremy goes in depth when it comes to the CCNA and the CCNP. He has 2 free courses that you could get started with, which is the CCNA free course, and he has the CCNP Encore. The CCNP Encore is obviously the professional level certification. If you don't have a CCNA, I don't think, if you don't have the CCNA knowledge, let me be clear, because a lot of people are going to lose their mind if I say, if you don't have a CCNA, you shouldn't go to CCNP. If you don't have the CCNA knowledge, if you don't know the basics of networking and stuff like that, I think you should leave the CCNP alone. But that's just my opinion. Whatever. His page is absolutely amazing, an amazing source, because again, he has these free courses. He has CCNA routing and switching packet tracer labs. This is for those of you who keep on asking me, oh, how do I get started in networking, and how do I, are there any projects? Jeremy's IT Lab is great. I use this course, I used his YouTube channel to pass my CCNA, amongst other sources, obviously, but this is a complete course because he goes further than the exam objectives into other areas that will allow you to get a full breadth, a full understanding of networking that really saves my behind each and every day when I'm at work, right? Start with Jeremy's IT Lab if you're studying for the CCNA, or if you're just looking to get into networking, whether you want a deeper understanding of networking or not. This channel will definitely help you with that. I always recommend him. I don't know if people are going to his channel or not, but I think that you should. Obviously, there's many people on this channel itself that says, oh, I took your course and I passed it with just your course. You can use his resources to pass the CCNA. He also recommends other resources along the way, but his channel is fantastic with regard to the substance of knowledge and the work that he puts into it, right? So that's another resource, right? So far, we have 3 resources. If you're looking to get into networking, you got my channel, you got Professor Messer. Go to his Network Plus. He has a bunch of stuff on his channel, a bunch of things. Got Jeremy's IT Lab, CCNA, CCNP, and the next resource that I'm going to talk about that I use every day, I use it as a study tool, but also as a reference when I need like a refresher on how to configure certain things, if I need the specific commands for something, or if I'm trying to bounce some ideas off of this resource, or I'm just bouncing some ideas around in my head, I go to Network Lessons, right? We have, let me see, on Network Lessons, we have CCNA, CCNP, and I believe, does he have CCIE? Yeah, I believe he has CCIE also. I don't want to butcher his name. His name is Renee. How do I say his last name? I don't want to butcher his last name, but his name is Renee, right? I am a subscriber to his website, networklessons.com, and look at all of the information he has, right? He has a ton of information, such as the CCNA, CCNP Encore, CCNP NRC, which is one of the concentrations of the CCNP exam. You can pick automation, you can pick all these other wireless, all these other different topics if you want to focus on and drill into CCNP, right? But if you're getting started on networking, you should probably just leave CCNP alone for now. You got CCIE Enterprise, ASA, Cisco SD-WAN. There's so many things, right? Subnetting, which is very important. Switching, spanning tree, frame relay. All of these things are amazing. You got some tools here, support, whatever, right? And you got some of the legacy courses here, which is also good. And also Python. Everybody likes to, ask me about Python. And I think that Python is a really good tool if you want to do network automation stuff. I think he's just started the data center information. But yeah, right? You got the VXLAN. Still trying to brush up on that. I learned it briefly in the CCNA. But look, he has a bunch of topics that you can get started with. You don't even have to start with a specific course. Like, for instance, I'm working on setting up BGP or reconfiguring BGP at work right now. And I like to dig into some of his BGP lessons to get the commands, the concepts, and all that stuff. And it's a quick reference. I could go on my work computer, go to this site, and then just look through some of the commands, look through the configurations, how everything is set up, the explanations, and this helps immensely. Great quick reference, right? So that is pretty much it. It's really not that hard to get started in networking. Getting started in networking is just about how curious are you? How curious are you? Like, I have a bunch of videos up here, practice questions. Oh, you want to get started in networking? Look here. This was from today. I just recorded a 40-minute video. This is the video that I just recorded. I just recorded about cybersecurity not being entry level, right? I've been in IT for almost 3 years now, and I talk about some of the things that you should go through before you look into a career in cybersecurity. I think it's all cybersecurity at the end of the day. I think it's all cybersecurity. I don't know if somebody else has made that assertion yet, but I think all of IT is cybersecurity. All of it. Obviously, there are security teams and stuff like that, but I think we all have a responsibility as IT professionals to be wary of cybersecurity threats and best practices to help mitigate against those threats, right? So posts. You want to get started in networking? I got a bunch of questions that I post every few days, every day, or what have you. Basic networking questions, right? And it helps me to stay fresh. It helps me to, keep reinforcing the knowledge that I have, and that's one of the reasons why I like posting these questions. Apparently you guys love answering them, which is great, right? I even have some of my non-technical friends that follow me that try to answer it, which is dope. But there are so many resources out here, right? Again, you got my channel, which I think if you're watching this video and you happened upon it, it's a great place to start to see how far you want to go in networking, if you even need to go far in networking at all. You got Professor Messer. He's actually doing a live right now. He got 1.02 million subscribers. Amazing resources, right? I'd say check him out. Jeremy's IT Lab, amazing. It's like the information that he get. Obviously, there are paid. He has paid versions of these courses that have. I think. Does the Anki cards come with it? I think the Anki cards, like flashcards and stuff like that, come with the paid course. I'm not sure. I don't want to misrepresent, but he has elements to the paid courses that, the free course is good as it is, but there's elements to the paid versions of the courses that you can benefit from, right? He has quizzes, right? So let me see. He has quizzes, which are great. I'm glad that YouTube caught on to the quiz stuff. And actually, when I first started posting these quiz questions, they were more like polls, right? And you didn't really know if your answer was correct unless the poster put the correct answer in the comments. But I find it to be more engaging because you can click the right answer or the wrong answer, and then the right answer would come up and it would explain why it's correct, right? So there are so many resources out here. You got my channel, Professor Messer, Jeremy's IT Lab, Network Lessons. Again, subnetting, you should know like the back of your hand. If you want to become a network engineer, I think you should at least know the basics of it. If you're learning, if you're just learning networking for the sake of, I don't know, your boss tells you to get a certification, or if you know, you're doing software, whatever it is, I think everybody should have a basic idea of networking. If for no other reason, for you guys to stop blaming the network, you guys in other fields, right? You people in other fields. I want to be gender neutral with it. In other fields of IT, it's not always the network. It's not always the network. So I think having a good understanding of networking concepts can help you to better. It makes you a better troubleshooter, right? Because if you know that you're not, if you know that it's not the network, it might be your code, or it might be some sort of configuration, or what have you, that you're not implementing correctly. It I think it boosts morale, or at least leaves morale at a good level, if you don't blame the network guys, right? Because some of us network guys, not me, but some of us network guys tend to be a little bit grumpy because people keep on blaming the network, right? So that's basically it. You have these, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 resources to help you get started in networking. It's really not that complicated. You just pick one and you stick to it. You don't have to hop all over the place and all that stuff. Notice I didn't even mention textbooks, because it seems like people would prefer video courses, digital courses, stuff like that, over reading a book. I prefer to read books. As a matter of fact, let's see here. Right now, I'm studying for the CCNP. Probably can't see it, but I'm studying for the CCNP, and it's a long process. If you want to get started in the CCNP, if you have your CCNA and you want to get started in the CCNP, again, Jeremy's IT Lab has a CCNP course, right? I mean, it's not finished yet, but there's a whole course here. Network Lessons has a CCNP course, right? You can jump right into that. Obviously, this is a paid subscription you got to get into. This is free. I highly recommend that you go for it. If you have your CCNA and you want to get into your CCNP, I highly recommend that. But if you're going for your CCNP, it's not just about the textbook. You got to read the Cisco documentation. I would highly recommend you read the request for comments. Yeah, read that stuff. That stuff is actually pretty cool. I would also, if I were you, get these books. I got these 2 books. I think it's CCIE level books, but they help you get a deeper understanding of these protocols. It's called Routing TCP/IP. It's a fairly established and mature book, if you will, and I believe it came out in the early 2000s. But you can get a deep dive into BGP, EIGRP, a lot of the different routing protocols, if you're studying for the CCNP and you want a deeper understanding. That's what I do. Also, if you're getting started in networking, I would highly advise that you also don't sleep on IPv6. Get an IPv6 book, and even if it's the basics, get it out the way. You might as well, because I think that eventually, we keep saying this, but I think eventually we're going to use IPv6. We're going to implement IPv6, right? Excuse me. So that's all I really have for you. I'm just trying to make these videos within the context of the questions I see in my comments, and I hope it helps. If you were looking for something more complicated, more convoluted, I'm sorry, I don't have it. Like, this is as straightforward as it can get. There's so much information out there if you actually want to find it, if you want to learn. It's all out there. AI is out there. You can ask AI anything. How do I get started in networking as someone who is a software engineer? Or how do I get started in networking as someone that wants to become a network engineer? By the way, I think network engineering is changing. Um, I don't think that, and this I'm actually seeing this because somebody commented and gave me a nice stern lecture on moving faster with regard to what I'm learning and stuff like that. I think network engineering is changing in the sense that we're not just network engineers anymore. I think that more and more we're going to find that we are network engineers slash network security engineers. I think most network engineers are network security engineers if they are doing everything from coming up with the idea of a network build, um, designing the network, and configuring the network, and also troubleshooting the network. These are for smaller organizations, right? And I think a lot of the time, smaller organizations suffer from a lot of unfortunate ransomware attacks, hacking, and stuff like that, because um, there isn't really a separate security team or a separate network engineering team, and all that stuff. Usually, they're just filled with IT support people, um, you know, one man or one woman IT departments, um, and a bunch of system admins, right? So it's kind of get a little dicey. But I think now I'm seeing it more where people are saying that IT professionals are more hybrid. I don't really know if I'm on board with IT professionals being hybrid as far as skill set is concerned, because I think that if you spread yourself too thin, I don't think that's a good thing, because you might know a little bit of everything, but not enough of everything, if you get what I'm saying. But I do believe that network engineers are required to be more hybrid now that I'm moving along more. And you got to know servers, you got to know firewalls is the big thing. By the way, getting started in networking, you should know, get one firewall that you are interested in, want to learn. I started with WatchGuard. Get some type of firewall going, even if it's a ASA something, and understand how firewalls work, right? You want to understand, ASA firewalls is good to start with, but then next generation firewalls are also good. I believe Fortinet has some free resources that you could get into. They have actual websites or actual demos of their firewall products that you can log into. I think they have labs that you can take a look at just to familiarize yourself with what a firewall looks like, how to deploy an access rule, VLANs, network segmentation. SonicWall also has a demo site that you can demo their products and look through their products. And am I missing anything? I don't know. Let's go through it again one more time. You got my channel. Obviously, you're on my channel. My channel, I don't do courses. I do demonstrations of like very basic but important things, like how to configure into VLAN routing, how to configure into VLAN routing with router on a stick. This is something, if you have a small organization and you have the equipment that allows for this, do it, because you have some sort of segmentation. I tell you, how I built resilient networks, like basic things like high availability, redundancy, network segmentation, port security, things like that. Network security vulnerabilities. They're basic stuff. These things are not out of reach. They're very accessible, and they're very available with regard to the information that's out there. You just have to have the curiosity for it, right? So that's pretty much it. I'm gonna stop, you know, stop talking your ear off, and I hope this helps you out. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.